all allowed to say, and I hate to get, you know.
And maybe the American Indians know it.
I think that the difficulty here is, you know, when I was mayor, this issue came up. And since it had been this property had been registered on the county tax map for decades upon decades as Village of Goshen property, we chose not to address it. Therefore, the issue went away again. It has gone away subsequently, administration after administration. Now, it is being presented to us, and two things that I find very interesting. One, that their insurance company is demanding that it be insured, which I can certainly understand. Number two, that I find it so odd that I am expected, after the village has maintained this for 100 years, and it's been the core of this community for 100 years, that it be considered arrogant to question whether we might not meet halfway here and not even be having this argument in allowing that property to be given to the village green or a 99-year lease. Joel and I agree, and it's not usual. However, I have to say that it is not an untoward way of dealing with issues like this to have a long-term lease. If in truth we are looking for and I address several groups here, but number one is, I say all of this in absolute respect to the church. I'm trying to give aside my perception of the situation and trying to make a very difficult decision. And I'd like to feel free to discuss the issues that are on my mind with people in the room who may have differing opinions. Number two, I'm discussing with my board. I think that there is, if forced into making a decision here, and a majority rule, that's one of the reasons this board gets along well, even when we do not agree on a particular issue. We take a vote, and then we move on to the next issue. I would say that I truly don't see it as arrogant. I would like us to be able to embrace that this is the core of our community. And we're not talking, we have a magnificent church park there. I don't think it's outrageous or untoward or ungracious on behalf of the Village of Goshen to say, may we not look upon this as the village green in the future, and can we not work it out in that fashion? If not in that fashion, then with a 99-year lease that is long-term, that will not have people feeling threatened about what is going on in the heart of our village. That is the goal. Whether that is the intent, sir, it is the perception. It is the perception. And I'm dealing with the questions that people ask me, sir. And those are the reasons I raise those two issues.
Mr. Mayor, I have very strong opinions about this, but I'd like to hear from the public.
Sure.
There are people out here that are raising their hands.
Okay.
There's time for us to argue about this at another time.
Okay. Lynn.
Unfortunately, I'm too short.
Yeah.
In the back, and we can see my hand being raised. My name is Lynn Sion, 11 Marie Terrace. I'm also the director of the Goshen Chamber of Commerce. And we've been very privileged to enjoy a very good relationship with both the village and the Presbyterian Church, because we use it for our farmers market every Friday, starting last Friday until October, and for the Great American Weekend. And I can speak that we had a situation recently. The village wanted to receive the grass, and we went up to Reverend Easley and said, would you mind if we take our three biggest vendors and just move down the block on the other side of the church path? And we were told, yeah, sure, it's not a problem. I don't really understand what the concern here is. The village and the church have coexisted peacefully since the Iroquois, or whoever was here, and King James gifted this to the village. In reading the lease, I have one thing I would actually like to see added to it, but I don't really see anything in this lease that is going to change really the way, except minor articulations, the way that the village and the church have always coexisted. And I think what I see is two entities that are central to this community, absolutely central, in the heart of the community, that use this central part of our village quite peacefully, and have always been able to do so. And I can say that from the Chamber's perspective. Any concerns that we've had I brought it to the village has ameliorated. I brought it to the church has ameliorated. As far as indemnifications, I have an entire stack of indemnifications and hold harmless to the village clerk for the farmers market, because our vendors hold the village harmless, because our contract is for the farmers market is with the village. We also provide those insurances to the church. We do double. We do that. We provide our insurance for the Great American Weekend to the church and to the village. And I don't see anything in this lease that is going to change that one way or another. I'm not an attorney, so I don't understand the difference between a 20-year lease and a 99-year lease. My understanding is that a 99-year lease almost conveys ownership, which is why a lot of places do not go for a 99-year lease anymore. But I'm an attorney speaks better said. I'm merely a social worker, so I don't understand those things. But one thing I would like to see in the lease, if the village would look to that, and if the church would entertain it, is that if in the future, for some reason, the Presbyterian Church feels a need or desires to sell that property, and I don't in their history see them as selling property. They have a quite large piece of property on South Church Street and Park Place that is vacant and hasn't been sold for decades now. But if, for some reason, they feel that need in the future, if they would put in the lease that the village has the right of first refusal. So this way, at a reduced rate or fair market or however you would word it, but so that the village does have the opportunity to purchase that property, so that it doesn't go to somebody else. Because I know that is a concern, but since the church owns the property, they could have sold it last year or 10 years ago or whatever. But I did want to just make mention that, from the Chamber's perspective, I don't really see any difference of how things are going to be dealt with, because even in the midst of this discussion, nothing has changed. We haven't been approached by the church to change, we haven't been approached by the village to change, it's just basically business as usual. But I would ask that both parties consider that one issue first.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to thank the board for having this obviously needed forum. I'd like to go back to page 2 that Trustee Matthews mentioned and talk about the verbiage of this agreement here. The sentence before that Marcy mentioned, the tenant agrees to keep the demised premises in good condition and good appearance. The tenant shall quit and surrender the premises at the end of the demised term in as good condition as a reasonable use thereof will permit. This implies that there's not a renewal to this agreement, the way I read it. I'd be concerned about that statement. And the following statement, all erections, which Marcy mentioned before, all erections, alterations, additions, and improvements, whether temporary or permanent in character, which may be made upon premises, either by the landlord or the tenant, except furniture or movable trade fixtures installed at the expense of the tenant, shall be the property of the landlord. My concern, and this is the historian coming out in me, that this document does not clarify ownership of any of the monuments. I really think this should be mentioned, that the village owns the monuments no matter who owns the land, even if we have to someday, move the monument. I think the way this agreement is worded is really not resolving anything, and it's just passing it to future generations 30 years from now. And I can see another gathering like this 30 years from now with lawyers present taking over this and debating what you meant by will. Use the word will, which anyone always likes to point out and change the actual meaning. So I really think you should consider the best interest of the village before you really sign off on it.
It's a small village, and I know a lot of people here that they're my friends, so I hope in asking some questions they don't feel as if this is some sort of an assault. But I'm primarily concerned with free speech rights. A village square is where people assemble, and we've had that village square for more than a century. And I think when that monument was built, it was the people that built that monument to those fallen heroes. They were not building a monument to be placed on a church property. They were building a monument placed on a village square. In other words, I think for a long time, it's been important to this village to have that place. Even if a crazy wants to go there and do a demonstration, that crazy has the right to go there. And if in whatever it is, 30 years, 31 years, this church's situation changes, its economics change, and it says, and the people that are there at that time say, well, you know, we're up against it, and the bank has offered $1 million for that